As part of We the People, celebrating 250 years, here's This Day in History.
As we count down to America's 250th birthday this summer, we're sharing our We the People series, the people, places, and things of the past that have shaped our country into what it is today. Here's Charlie Shortino with This Day in History.
Hello again. On this day, April 12th, back in 1861, the Civil War began as the Confederates opened fire on Fort Sumter in South Carolina. The fort was held by the Union and was surrendered a day later after the Confederates launched more than 4,000 rounds at it. The Civil War would go on for 4 years after it began, becoming the deadliest war in American history. In total, an estimated 620,000 soldiers died. That includes more than 12,000 from Wisconsin, with over 90,000 Wisconsinites fighting in the South. Camp Randall in Madison was also a pivotal part of Civil War history. More than 70,000 soldiers received military training there during the war. Today, a memorial arch at Camp Randall serves as an entrance to the stadium, honoring one of the most difficult periods in the nation's history. While the Confederates' most respected general, Robert E. Lee, surrendered on April 9th of 1865, the American Civil War was officially declared over on August 20th of 1866 by President Andrew Johnson. That's This Day in History for April 7th. For We the People, I'm Charlie Shortino.
Coming up next year on the morning.